On March 6, 2025, a couple walked into my shop holding a 47-page owner's manual like it was written in a foreign language. Their 2-year-old Toyota RAV4 was driving them crazy. The seatbelt chime was deafening. The doors locked at the worst possible moments. The headlights stayed on so long after parking that neighbors thought they had been broken into. They had already been to the dealership twice. Both times, the service advisor smiled, told them everything was operating as designed, and sent them on their way. Today, I am revealing the 7 hidden Toyota dashboard settings that dealers quietly refuse to mention because once owners learn how to access them, the dealership loses control over the car they actually paid for. I have been working on Japanese vehicles for over 20 years, and Toyota is my specialty. There is something most people never realize about modern Toyotas. The car you drove off the lot is not the car the engineering team in Aichi designed. It is a watered-down, locked-down, dealer-friendly version of it. Every time a Toyota rolls off a transport truck, the dealer flashes preferences, toggles options, and presets the vehicle to a configuration that makes it easier for them to service, easier for them to upsell, and harder for you to customize. This is not illegal in any literal sense. I use that word because to most owners, it might as well be. These settings exist, the hardware exists, the menus exist. Toyota built them on purpose, and yet 95% of owners drive away with no idea any of this is hidden inside the dashboard they look at every single day. That couple with the RAV4 spent 45 minutes in my shop. I did not charge them a dime. I did not connect a scanner. I did not pull a fuse. I just walked them through their multi-information display, held a few buttons in the right sequence, and rewrote the personality of their car. They left smiling, almost confused that something so simple had been kept from them for 2 years. So today, I am giving you the same walkthrough. 7 specific settings that exist in nearly every modern Toyota built from roughly 2018 onward. Settings that change daily ownership in ways you will feel within the first 24 hours. Some of these are buried in customization menus. Some require holding 2 buttons during a specific ignition sequence. Some are accessed only through the vehicle settings on the multi-information display between the gauges. None of them require a scan tool. None of them void your warranty. And all of them are documented features Toyota engineered into the vehicle on purpose. Before I get into the 7, you need to understand why this matters. Modern Toyotas, like every modern vehicle, are run by a body control module that decides how doors lock, how lights behave, how chimes sound, how the multi-information display behaves, and how the car interacts with you every time you climb inside. Most of those behaviors are programmable. Toyota knows owners have preferences. Engineers know one driver wants doors that lock the moment the car moves, and another driver hates that feature with a passion. So they built customization into nearly every modern model. But here is where it gets uncomfortable. Most dealerships either do not train their staff on these settings, or they intentionally avoid mentioning them because customizing the vehicle creates support calls, confusion, and complaints they would rather not deal with. The result is a generation of Toyota owners who think the car arrived from the factory exactly the way it has to be. It did not. The first hidden setting most owners never discover is the customizable auto door lock speed. By default, your Toyota probably locks all 4 doors automatically the moment you shift out of park, or once the vehicle exceeds a certain speed. For some drivers, that is exactly what they want. For others, especially parents constantly opening rear doors at carpool or drivers who hate the clunk of the actuators every single time, it is maddening. What dealers do not mention is that you can choose when and if those doors lock. Inside the multi-information display, under Vehicle Settings, there is a door lock customization menu that allows you to choose between 4 behaviors: lock when shifted out of park, lock at a specific speed threshold, unlock automatically when the engine stops, or disable auto lock entirely. You can even decouple the unlock behavior from the lock behavior. Most owners never see this menu because the steering wheel toggle to access it is not intuitive. It is hidden 2 layers deep behind the settings icon. Once you find it, you can completely rewrite how your Toyota treats its own doors. The second setting is the headlight off delay. If you have ever parked your Toyota at night, walked away, and turned around to see your headlights still blazing for what feels like an eternity, you are not imagining it. Toyota engineers built a feature called Follow Me Home lighting that keeps the headlights on after you leave the vehicle to illuminate your walk to the front door. The default delay on most models is around 30 seconds. What dealers rarely mention is that this delay is fully adjustable. You can set it to 0 seconds, 15, 30, 60, 90, or disable it entirely. Same menu, vehicle settings, customization, lighting. Owners who never knew this existed have spent years watching their battery slowly drain on short, cold mornings because the lights kept activating after every short trip. The third setting is the seatbelt reminder chime adjustment. Toyota cannot legally allow you to fully disable the front passenger or driver seatbelt chime in most markets. But what they do allow, and what dealers usually will not tell you, is the ability to mute or shorten the rear seatbelt warning chime that activates when a passenger unbuckles mid-trip. If you have a child seat installed, a dog harness clipped into the seatbelt, or you move things around on the back seat, this chime will not stop. Dealers often tell owners it is a federal safety requirement. That is partly true. The chime exists by regulation, but the volume and duration in many models is owner adjustable through a specific ignition sequence. On many Toyota models built after 2020, the procedure is this: turn the ignition to on without starting the engine, press the trip meter reset, hold it for 10 seconds, then press the seatbelt button on the dash. The display will show a small icon, and the chime can be set to short, normal, or extended. This procedure is in your owner's manual, usually buried on a page most people never reach. The fourth setting is the reverse tilt side mirror programming. This is one of my personal favorites because it is so genuinely useful and so completely unknown. On most Toyotas with power folding or power adjusting mirrors, there is a feature where the passenger side mirror, and sometimes both mirrors, automatically tilt downward when you shift into reverse. That lets you see the curb when parallel parking, the line in a parking spot, or an obstacle directly beside the rear wheel. The problem is, this feature is usually disabled from the factory. The hardware is there. The motors are there. The wiring is there. The setting is simply toggled off until someone activates it. To turn it on, set the side mirror selector to the left or right position, depending on your model, then hold the mirror tilt switch in the down position for a specific number of seconds while the ignition is on. The mirror remembers the angle, and from that point forward, every time you shift into reverse, the mirror tilts automatically. Shift back into drive, and it returns to its normal position. Owners pay extra for this on luxury vehicles. You already have it, you just have to turn it on. The fifth setting is Walk Away Auto Lock and Approach Unlock Customization. If your Toyota has the smart key system, it almost certainly can lock itself when you walk away with the key fob in your pocket and unlock as you approach. But this feature is often disabled from the factory, or partially disabled, because dealers have decided it confuses customers. The reality is that walk-away auto lock is one of the most useful features ever built into a modern car. You leave the vehicle, walk roughly 6 to 10 feet away, and the car locks itself with a chirp or a flash. No more wondering if you locked the door. No more walking back to check. The setting is buried in the same vehicle customization menu, usually under Entry and Exit. You can set it to lock automatically, to require a touch on the door handle, or to do nothing at all. Combined with approach lighting, this changes how it feels to own the car. The sixth setting is the multi-information display custom screens. Most owners use the default screens that come up when they cycle with the steering wheel button, like Trip A, Trip B, fuel economy, and range. They do not realize there are hidden screens built into the display that are turned off by default. These include real-time engine coolant temperature, transmission fluid temperature on supported models, instantaneous torque output, individual tire pressure readings to 1/10 of a PSY, hybrid battery state of charge percentage on hybrid models, and a real-time air-fuel ratio gauge on certain trims. Toyota disables most of these screens from the factory because they decided the average owner did not want them. But every single one is accessible through a customization submenu, and once you turn them on, they appear in your normal cycle of screens. For anyone who actually wants to understand what their car is doing, these screens are gold. The transmission temperature reading alone has saved more transmissions than I can count. Towing on a hot day with no way to monitor fluid temperature is one of the fastest ways to kill an automatic. Toyota gave you the gauge. Dealers just never showed you where it was hiding. The seventh and final setting is the welcome lighting and approach light duration. When you press the unlock button on your fob at night, your Toyota briefly illuminates the cabin, the puddle lights under the mirrors, and sometimes the exterior taillights. This is called welcome illumination, and the duration is adjustable. The default is usually 15 seconds. You can extend it to 30, 60, or even 120 seconds. That change is incredibly useful in dark parking lots, in snowy conditions, or when you are loading groceries into the trunk. On models with puddle lamps, you can also customize whether they activate on unlock, on door open, or both. Dealers will not mention this because most of them do not know it exists. It lives in the same lighting customization submenu as the headlight delay, but on a separate page that requires scrolling past the obvious options to find. Now here is the part that most owners do not realize until they have actually changed these settings. The cumulative effect of customizing your Toyota the way Toyota engineers actually intended is dramatic. The car suddenly feels like it was built for you. The doors stop locking when you do not want them to. The headlights turn off when you walk away. The chimes stop driving you crazy. The mirrors tilt when you need them. The car locks itself when you leave. The display shows you what you actually want to see. The cabin lights up when you approach. None of this is aftermarket. None of this requires a tuner. None of this voids your warranty. It is all factory equipment, factory programming, factory features that were quietly switched off or buried in menus the dealer hoped you would never find. Why does this happen? Why would a manufacturer build features into the car and then hide them? The answer is honestly simple. Dealers do not want callbacks. Service advisors do not want to explain settings to confused owners. Technicians are paid to fix problems, not configure preferences. So the path of least resistance is to leave the defaults alone, hand the keys over, and let the customer figure it out. Most never do. They drive the car for 5, 8, 10 years thinking the way it behaves on day one is the way it has to behave forever. Then they trade it in and the cycle starts again with the next owner. You bought the car, you paid for the hardware, you paid for the features, you deserve to use them. Every single setting I just walked you through is documented somewhere in your owner's manual, your maintenance manual, or your in-car help system. The procedures vary slightly between model years, between Camry and Corolla and Highlander and Tacoma, but the principles are identical. Find the customization menu, scroll patiently, read carefully, and the car you actually paid for reveals itself one setting at a time. If this video changed how you think about your Toyota, hit that like button so more owners stop being kept in the dark by the people who should have explained this on day one. Subscribe if you want me to break down the next round of hidden features, including the gauge cluster diagnostic mode that exposes battery health, voltage history, and stored fault codes without a single tool. And drop a comment with which of these 7 settings shocked you the most, because I guarantee somebody reading right now is about to walk out to their driveway and finally take control of the car they have been paying for all along. The most expensive feature is not the one you cannot afford. It is the one you already paid for and never knew you had.